Brilliant producer-director Chad Archibald gave us a real scare ride that likely to be skirted under your radar in a movie which titled as It Fits, which hearing first felt like a creature feature like an anaconda or claw, but when you went knee-deep into the plot, it made a lot of sense. Mother and daughter pair, Cynthia and Jordan, were seen on the get-go to be helping people with eternal fear and inhibitions like professional psychiatrists. However, for Cynthia, who like her deceased husband, possessed a power that could infiltrate into the inner psyche, into the innermost crevices of the victim's memory and fear. In that particular case we saw in the first act, we have a hospital worker who had been plagued by demons for his entire life by a school teacher who might have done something heinous towards him. As the session with this poor chap was coming to an end, a visibly shaken and aggrieved girl by the name of Riley came to their doorsteps, frantically seeking help for something that had been haunting her. Even though the Winstones had been recommended by a mutual friend Agatha to Riley's father, he had barred her from seeking help as she was at wit's end before deciding to seek help. After all, something sinister was attached to Riley and had caused her grievous bodily harm, and Cynthia was overwhelmed by what she could be dealing with and knew when to pull the plug when rendering help as her husband had gone in too deep previously, leading to his demise. Her daughter Jordan would be holding within her that irresistible urge to help Riley despite the perils waiting for her along the way. As she went out of her way to help Riley, keeping Cynthia in the dark, she would ultimately be held captive by Riley's father, as we will be uncovering the secrets the father had been harboring. It Fits was a decent supernatural affair that took elements from many popular horror movies and intellectual properties that preceded it. Cynthia's ability to transverse into inner mindscapes of the victims who had been haunted reminded me of Lin Shaye's character in the Insidious franchise, and her expertise to bring characters into a realm to combat the entities haunting them. There was no religious undertone in that franchise, and neither was being talked about here as well. The character played by Juno Rinaldi, Agatha, was a sort of a fumbling sidekick which helped instill a bit of levity to an otherwise suffocatingly solemn affair. I'm sure there was horror franchise which adopted the same type of sidekick character, but she reminded me of Emma Thompson's Professor Trelawney in Harry Potter's films. The name Agatha also instantly reminded me of the powerful witch played by Catherine Hahn, who had brought so much grievance to Wanda before becoming the protagonist in her own series from Marvel. And looking at what Cynthia was wearing in the climactic showdown, I could sense a bit of influence there as well. The part that Jordan had been captive certainly brought me back to Heretic from recent times. There were many films of people being held captive for sacrificing to some evil, which even in recent days watching Garnibal on Disney Plus was a key subplot. There was this key scene with Jordan being buried and being traumatized by the creature 6 feet under, which of course led me to reminiscence about Joko Anwar's Siksa Kubo, the first movie I reviewed on this channel. As an audience, when you look at the crimson-lit environment of foul air and ghastly chill in the climax, how can it not remind you of the upside-down world from the Stranger Things TV series? Even the design of the evil beings was like a mix of Vecna from season 4 of Stranger Things and Bukko from Sinister. The whole part of the kid being abducted and put in life-threatening situation against evil entities, and was not conservative in showing visceral bodily harm like acid burnt on the skin, while the mother figure went through extreme measures to save a kid. That was basically the plot of the earlier seasons of Stranger Things. That said, the movie still worked for me, and after a rather lackluster session with The Woman in the Yard in my previous review, I was being properly scared a few times in viewing of this movie. The presentation of the movie for me was rather quiet in terms of the dialogues, and even the score was kept very smothered. So I thought I would increase the volume substantially, but in actual fact, the jump scare sound effects nearly cost me cardiac arrest. Director Chad Archibald created Black Fawn Films, which had produced a slew of horror movies in Canada, including acclaimed movies like 2020's The Oak Room and 2021's Vicious Fun. His 2015 body horror feature Bite caused quite a stir in the Fantasia Film Festival during the premiere, causing some audience to faint and others to puke. In 2017, he made The Heretic, an occultist feature which was gritty and obtrusive, which messed with the mind of the audience and would not shy away from it. In an interview prior to the release of It Fits Ontario native Archibald mentioned that his latest movie was a grieving exercise, having lost his parents both to cancer, which explained the parental tattoos that was so prominent in this movie. Archibald himself was in remission of skin cancer, which might also be reflected by the epidemic destruction seen in the supernatural attack in this movie. American actress Ashley Greene of the Twilight Saga fame played Cynthia Winstone and had a decent rapport with young actress Ellie O'Brien playing her daughter Jordan. Green's next movie role would be with Dan Stevens and Al Pacino in the scariest exorcism documented in America in David Middel's The Ritual. It Fits is a competently made horror movie that hit many familiar notes which still worked, but it was never going to move any mountain with regards to the plot and the visuals for many horror fans. For me, this is a classic 7 out of 10 movie. It had been a while since we saw living legend Al Pacino being involved in a horror movie. While it felt like religious horror and demonic possession had ran its course for me personally, I'm still looking forward to The Ritual, so please subscribe to this channel and stay tuned for a review from yours truly in due time. If you appreciate my review for It Fits, please click a like as well. As mentioned in the review, Kwame's Colette Serra's The Woman in the Yard was the preceding review which I was slightly disillusioned with. The next time another movie which the dialogue and background sounds was tuned so low, I would reckon the jump scares using sound effects will be highly probable.